So we are outside the Union today with Vick and Jordan from Radio 1. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
How are you doing? How's today been for you?
Oh, it's been great. Ariel, she's still actually cycling at the moment, so she's on the bike back there playing some absolute bangers. But she's got, about an hour left. It's been amazing. It's been really, really amazing and such a brilliant place to be doing it.
Yeah, it's absolutely freezing at the moment, but as you can tell, she's struggling a bit today, and she's feeling tired and what have you. But like Vic said, it's the last hour now. You can hear the music in the background. So a lot of people forget, like, she's cycling for 10 hours a day, but she's also got a DJ at the same time, so it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite difficult, yeah,
Multitasking. You need some fuel for that. And speaking of fuel, we're actually by the Union. I'm not sure if you knew, but it quite handily has a co-op, which I know Izzie and I have definitely enjoyed a meal deal or a few from. So what is your go-to meal deal?
Oh, Vic.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Because you always go to the same place before work.
Yeah, so but they want a meal deal though. What I like to get, and don't judge me, is I like to get some spinach, followed by some grains, followed by some rare steak, followed by a little bit of chimichurri on top, and there's this amazing sort of coriander encrusted cauliflower that goes on the side that I get for my lunch pretty much every day. No salt and pepper because the girl behind the till won't give me any. For whatever reason, she hates me. I don't know if she's my enemy.
Mean.
But,
There's a girl that every day refuses to give Vic salt and pepper, and we don't know why. I just usually get a cheese and ham sandwich, a bag of crisps, and a Diet Coke.
Sorry, as you can see, I'm just trying to be relatable here.
Thank you. Well, moving on a little bit from radio, we've seen like podcasts now being on the rise. And I know, Jordan, you've got your podcast,
Yep.
by Sex to My Boss. How have you found sort of like the transition to on demand? And are there any major differences that you hadn't really realised before you started podcasting?
I think there's definitely room for them both. So live radio works because it's there, it's live, you know, the music's going, and then podcasts work as well. But yeah, the main transition for me is there's nothing I don't talk about on the podcast that I don't do with Vic. It's just that I can't swear on the radio.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference I've noticed. But yeah, on demand and live radio, there's definitely, I think there's a place for both. You do a podcast as well. You do a couple, don't you?
Yeah, I do a books podcast. I don't think there would be space for me to do that on the radio. And I think that crucially there is space, like Jordan just said, for both. In fact, often they, both of those worlds kind of, they back each other up, like they support one another. Like we actually have a podcast, 4-hour radio show at home with Vic and Jordan. So we do go home with Vic and Jordan 4 days a week. Then on a Friday, the podcast comes out and it's all the stuff that we couldn't say during the week. It's a peek behind the curtain. And I feel like they sometimes work together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, do you have any like pre or post show rituals, either before a show or before a podcast recording?
Let's do radio.
Yeah, we always before we go on air, we always shout, "Let's do radio!" And we usually meet about, we're on air for 3:30, and we usually meet for about 2 p.m, 2:30 at the latest. Then we plan the show, and then we usually get out around about 6:15. So it's like a half day, but yeah, we plan and prep it, but we don't have any rituals really. Just Vic always comes with a dinner. A tea, and lunch even.
Yeah, I, as I said, I do like that steak dish that I get from the cafe downstairs. There's other times I've been experimenting with some other meals recently that I like to bring to the studio. I've been now banned from bringing my meals to.
She brought kippers in and it bloody stunk. The studio stunk.
Yeah, I brought kippers, nutritious and delicious, but yes, I appreciate that they are a little putrid. And I had an octopus the other day as well.
Oh God, I forgot that.
Made fun of.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
That's our pre-show tradition, is to have octopus and kippers before we go live on air.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very interesting.
So TV and radio, I think, is quite different. Obviously, radio is live. TV can be live, but a lot of the time it's pre-recorded and people can see you on TV. How do you feel like you present yourselves differently, and what are you more comfortable doing?
For me, because Vic does quite a lot of TV as well. For me, I've always said, as long as I'm on the radio, I'm happy, and whatever else comes along, so like fun TV shows, like I was on Saturday Night Takeaway this weekend, which is a great show to work on. But yeah, they're totally different, and I always use this example. if on the radio you want to be in France, you play the Hello theme tune, which none of you have never heard of, but instantly, as soon as you hear it, it puts you in France. In telly, if you want to be in France, you've got to get props and sets and stuff. But again, they're both equally different, but I do genuinely love doing them both. And live TV's like radio is really exciting.
Yeah, it is good having that little voice in your ear. Your time is always way shorter on the radio. You can chat for a bit longer. You've got that space. You're often not as rushed. You're not hitting these junctions so quickly, and it is really like high octane fun. But equally, like Jordan just said, oh my God, if you want to get something signed off, if you want to make a show, you've had an idea, you could be looking at 2 years down the line before it actually goes on the telly. Whereas if you have an idea in radio, we will have it in the meeting at 2:30. It'll be on the radio at 3:30. And then, you know what, if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, it's done. No one needs to ever think about it again. So they have their pros and their cons. I love doing both side by side, flex both those muscles. It's just a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, but we're both really lucky because we do get to do both, and we definitely both enjoy doing TV and radio.
Amazing, thank you. And coming back to Leeds and a bit more geographically, what is your favourite place to go for a pint in Leeds?
I've not been to Leeds for ages. I've done the Otley Run when I was about 21, 22, and I thought I'd smash it, and I didn't. So it's a load of bars in Leeds.
Oh, I thought you meant like a 10K or something.
No, it's kind of like it. It's a beer call, and you go in every bar in Leeds and you have a pint. And people said, "Oh, just go in and have half." And I was like, "No, I'll have a pint." We had a pint and a chaser. I think we made it to about 7 bars. I think there's about 11 in there.
There's 16 to 18.
16.
Yeah,
Right.
it's huge.
Yeah, so 6 or 7 pints. So I made it in there. Where else have I? There's loads of places I've been in Leeds. I can't remember. Have you been out here before?
No, so when I was growing up, we had no Afro hairdressers in Newcastle, so I'm from Newcastle. And actually, we had a couple like for braiding, and then there was one really expensive because he knew he was the only one. He had a monopoly on Afro hair. So me and my mum used to come down to Leeds because I guess there was maybe a slightly larger Afro-Caribbean society and community at the time. And we used to come down, we make a whole day of it. Her name was Margaret, who used to do our hair. We used to go to Margaret's place. I don't know if she's still there. And so it was like every 3 months, it was me and my mum's thing to do together. We'd come down and get our hair done. But I was a bit too young, so we weren't drinking. We'd make sandwiches as well. We'd make like tuna sandwiches or something and bring them down. It was like a full day out. It was so fun.
That's sweet. I've been to Ellen Road a few times as well for the football. Yeah. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. I mean, now, you know, there's loads of Afro hairdressers in Newcastle because the community has grown. But I always remember thinking like, oh, this is a place where we could also get ingredients. My mum would like get Nigerian ingredients for food. I don't know. I guess it was just, there was like a little community here.
Yeah, that's lovely. It's slightly less with the Otley Run. Can you remember what theme it was and what you dressed as?
Yeah, we were dressed as golf players.
Oh, classic.
That's so difficult.
We were dressed as golf players. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not big and it's not clever.
Great.
And then lastly, if you could go back in time and give your younger student radio or just starting out in radio self a piece of advice or tell them something that would give them confidence for the future, what would it be?
Okay, there are 2 types of mistake you can make on the radio. One is a very tiny one that you will think is important and you will think people noticed it, and I can tell you this, no one cares. No one heard it, no one minds. Move on and never think about it again apart from to learn from it and try not to do it again. But don't worry about it. You don't need to keep thinking about it. The other kind of mistake that you can make is a really big one that you need to make a whole bit out of. Like, if it's going to be big, you make it big. Have a laugh with it. Make a feature out of it. Really draw even more attention to it. But don't worry, nothing ever falls in the middle. They're either too small to notice or care about, or big enough to become like its own bit of content.
Just own it. And a boss used to say to me, nobody's died. No. My advice would be to myself, just enjoy it as well. I didn't enjoy the journey as much because I was so desperate to get on the radio and so like keen to sound great, and that's part of the journey. I was rubbish when I started. I still am.
Oh,
but
the best broadcaster there is.
No, don't be daft, bless you. How many of you had? But yeah, it would be to say to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work. These are great mics. Yeah. I'm being a geek here. Look at.
How do you know it's so good?
I thought just because look how light
is it all good?
Oh my
God! Look, these are great. We need to get some of these. We don't even have these at Radio 1.